I know it might seem a little odd to already be recording a video essay about Spider-Man Brand New Day, given the fact that it just released a couple days as of recording this, but I had a lot of thoughts and I was worried that if I didn't record it, and I guess if I didn't get all my feelings and thoughts in audio format, I was probably going to forget what I wanted to say eventually. Because I did actually already record a first draft, but I fear that I actually missed out on a lot of talking points because I was just too focused on the main aspect of the video I'm making sure, but I still wanted to talk about some things. So first and foremost, I want to make it clear that this is coming from the perspective of somebody who still, as of today, believes that Tobey Maguire's portrayal of Spider-Man is the best. And again, feel free to disagree. I am not here to tell you to believe otherwise, but I want it to be known that I am, and always probably will be, a big Tobey Maguire Spider-Man fan, but I can confidently say that Tom Holland's portrayal in this movie is definitely up there for me. No lie, I think Spider-Man Brand New Day might just easily be in my top 5s at this point. And I even consider it to be pretty on par with Spider-Man 2, albeit I still prefer Spider-Man 2 from the Raimi trilogy, but you could argue that's just nostalgia talking, and you might be a little correct, but I don't think that completely invalidates my opinion, and vice versa. But I have to just genuinely give Tom Holland his flowers because he was phenomenal in this movie, and it made me really glad that there was a new director on board with this movie, because I will say I think this is probably the most visually appealing and just beautiful film out of all the 4 that he's had, and I can only thank the director for that. They knew what they were doing. I wish I knew them by name, of course, and I feel a little disrespectful not knowing, but I thought the movie just looked stunning, and all of the actors involved in the movie, they genuinely put their heart and soul into this movie, and I can only thank them for that, because if not for their hard work and their dedication to their craft, I don't think I'd be sitting here making this video. That being said, of course, I want to make it known that I will be delving into spoilers, though right off the gate I am going to give a very short but sweet review / rating of the movie, and I will just give it to you now. I can say that this movie is a solid 9 out of 10 for me. It still misses the mark on some things, but again, I will delve into that a little later. To me, Spider-Man 2 will still always be the perfect 10 out of 10 movie of all time for me, but this is definitely up there. And it's funny because I've made it known, especially to those around me, that I was never really big on Tom Holland as Spider-Man, not because of his acting prowess or lack of or anything like that, but I've never been a big fan of the MCUification, if that's the right way to describe it, but the MCUification of superhero movies, more specifically, obviously, Marvel movies. But I didn't really like that the first 2 movies especially felt like the most wink wink nudge nudge. Oh my god, look at this character from Endgame, look at this character from Avengers, oh my god, look at this character. And I'll be honest, I was never really a big fan of the mentor-mentoree relationship that Peter and Tony Stark had, but you could also just chalk that up to the fact that I just don't really like Iron Man nor Robert Downey Jr. for my own personal reasons, but I'll just be honest in that regard. I think one thing that both Homecoming and Far From Home did really well, in my opinion, was kind of just the actual friendship between Peter and Ned. And it's funny because as much as I like the Zendaya Tom Holland relationship, I'll be the first to say it here, it did feel like it sorta came out of nowhere, because while it was slightly implied that MJ had feelings for Peter in Homecoming, Peter didn't really feel anything at all, even in Homecoming, and then like all of a sudden in Far From Home he just has a crush on MJ, which it could just be because obviously the actors were in a relationship or like they had really good chemistry. So to some extent I can kind of forgive it, because most of their on-screen chemistry only makes sense when you just remember the fact that they're actually dating and now married in real life. So, but again, it's still obviously better romance than some other, again, some other romances that shall not be named because I know it's a little controversial, but I still like those movies, so don't judge me. Anyways, I like, just to further go back to what I was originally talking about, my rating and the reason why I rated this is because it felt like in this movie there was a big shift in the way that Spider-Man and Peter Parker were written. I guess I know they're the same person, but there just felt like a shift in the writers' room. I don't know what they were cooking or what they were on when they were cooking, but they cooked. And this is like the one Spider-Man movie for Tom Holland's run as Spider-Man where I've genuinely felt like this is Spider-Man to me. Maybe not my Spider-Man, but this is Spider-Man. And this is not really spoilery, but I really liked that they focused a lot on relationships of any and all. And I like that for once the sense of community that kind of was always there, even from like the beginning of these I don't even know, it's not quadrilogy. What the I don't know the word for it, but I can't think of it right now. But this series of Spider-Man movies, they always tried to make it seem like Spider-Man was an everyday man and that the community of New York loved him and that like he earned that love and respect. But honestly, I don't think he really earned it, or at least it didn't feel earned until this movie. And that's not to say that he hasn't had some great feats in the original movies, the first few, but I feel like this movie was the one where I could physically feel that sense of community and unity and love for each other and for Spider-Man. And this is kind of where I get into spoiler territory, but spoiler alert, Sadie Sink plays Jean Grey, and she did a phenomenal job at playing the character, and I just really liked the energy and the darkness and sadness to her character. I'll admit I'm not the most familiar with Jean Grey as a whole. I won't even sit here and pretend that I've read the comics or that I've done anything. Like, no, my knowledge of her is very little to nothing, but from what I do know of her, I think she did a really, really fantastic job. And it's kind of funny how this is like the second now character where there's like the doomed sibling relationship going on there, because yes, again, spoiler alert, her sister is dead at the hands of the damage control units in the government. They experimented on her and they basically sacrificed her for the sake of trying to do good and trying to harness this power to do good, which is like a whole lot of BS, obviously. But I just like that her motives made sense, and I don't really blame her for, behaving the way that she did throughout the movie. Though I will say one of my, and this is kind of where I sort of delve into my sort of critiques on the movie, it kind of felt like halfway they changed what was really going to be the purpose of Jean Grey enacting these evil crimes and murking all these random citizens, because it kind of felt at the beginning, at least to me, I could be wrong, it felt like she was like an entirely different villain at the first half, and then at the second half she turned into a sympathetic villain-esque character, which I didn't mind, obviously, but it just felt kind of sort of out of nowhere, if that makes sense. But it was, again, this is not enough to deter me from liking the movie. I still really enjoyed it. And my second, I guess, critique, and this is a little more nitpicky, but at the same time, even though it did kind of annoy me just a tad bit, I can't understand why they didn't delve this further into it. But I was so confused as to where Peter was getting his money. I'm not gonna lie to you. If I had to guess, it was probably just, I don't know, Tony Stark fund or some shit like that. But it was so confusing to me because, like, yes, he's living in this crummy, bummy ass apartment in New York, but like we would see him have all this machinery and like treadmill and like ordering pizza and shit and getting these bouquets every day, and not even like the Tobey Maguire, the crummy little 3 flowers in the bouquet. No, it was just like a full-on bouquet every day for Aunt May, rest in peace. But again, if I had to assume, I feel like they probably didn't delve that far into Peter struggling to make ends meet, simply because people like me, low-key, would have probably just complained that, oh, they're just copying my goat. They're copying the Tobey Maguire Raimi trilogy. And yeah, maybe, but I also did notice that there was like quite a few homages to the other Spider-Man, and it was really cool to see, especially that ending scene where, again, like I mentioned, you really feel that New York love, the community around them all coming together for the sake of their love for Spider-Man. And it just felt just so beautiful, such a beautiful scene. And I'll admit I got teary-eyed because it did remind me of, you know, the Raimi trilogy, especially that scene in Spider-Man 3 where Peter sees all the people at the parade and, you know, cheering for him with all the signs and the costumes. And it just makes me really happy that there is a new generation of Spider-Man fans out there who, though, again, in my eyes, this current Spider-Man had a bit of a rocky start, I can definitely feel that this movie is the start of something new and for the better. Now, my main purpose of making this video, however, was definitely to talk about how it impacted me and more specifically how it made me feel seen. And I know I'm gonna get the influx of comments saying, oh, another movie made you feel seen, Gummy. Oh my god, how many movies made you feel seen? Okay, I don't care. I'm still gonna make this video because it did. This movie just hit at my heartstrings like it hadn't in a long time. The last time I felt this scene from like a Marvel movie or a Spider-Man movie, honestly, it's been a really, really long time. The last time I truly felt that was when I watched Spider-Man 2, because just like Peter Parker, just like Spider-Man, there have been a lot of times in my life where it's hard to make the right decisions and it's hard to not be selfish, and it's also just as hard to let some people go in your life for the sake of doing what's right and not allowing yourself to be selfish by doing that. Like there are times where it feels like I have to sacrifice my own likes and dislikes for the sake of others, but at the end of the day, I think I am pretty confident with the decisions I've made and the person I've chose to become. And I think all the people behind these movies, and even though I already mentioned countless times that I might not have been a fan of the original movies, the first few Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, or even the Andrew Garfield movies, which that's a whole other can of worms, but I won't delve into it. But I've come to realize that I have been too negative when it comes to critiquing movies sometimes. Like, I outright say it's bad, though I still think there are some movies who still contend to that. But I think I've come to the realization, especially because of like something that my friend has actually told me, that I think it's a little harsh, and obviously in hindsight, I think it's a little harsh to see a movie and just outright say it's bad, because no one makes these movies for the sake of making them bad. People put a lot of effort and time and work into these movies, and I think it should be appreciated. It could, like, again, the movie might not be for you, but there are some people out there who do enjoy it, and that's okay. And just like you might not like it, that's okay too. But to get back on track here for a second, even though I'll admit I was a little frustrated with how Aunt May in particular has been portrayed in the MCU movies, especially because, like I mentioned, I did not really like how she was in Far From Home and in Homecoming, because a lot of it felt very sexist, very pervy. Like every fucking guy in the movies were just constantly mentioning how she was hot and like trying to get at her. And even fucking Iron Man stupid ass saying some shit like, oh, I hope you're wearing something skimpy. Okay, shut your bitch ass up. Anyways, I will say I'm glad they didn't leave her legacy to just go to waste, if that makes sense, because obviously in No Way Home she does become a lot more relevant in terms of affecting Peter's life. Though again, at that time I felt like the emotional beat felt a little unearned, her dying and whatnot. But I mean, it's Aunt May dying, bro. Of course I'm gonna feel sad, and of course I'm gonna cry, right? But I really appreciate that they showcased this moment between Peter and Aunt May in Peter's memories, where she sits him down and has what I would argue is something that I've been meaning to hear for a long time, and something that I wish I had heard growing up as someone neurodivergent, someone a part of the LGBT community, just someone different. And I just love that she sits him down and looks him in the eye and tells him that he is beautiful, and that she hopes that he doesn't forget that there are people out there who love him, not because of what he does and what his special abilities are, but because of who he is deep down, and that it is so easy to fall victim to all these dark thoughts and to become vengeful and hateful and use what you got to evoke nothing but hate and injustice, and just to take all of these feelings bottled up and turn it into something awful, especially when the world will go out of its way to treat you like dirt, to treat you horrifically, but that his greatest responsibility is to remember that he is not alone, despite how easy it is to feel that way, especially when you are different. And it was so, it like genuinely just makes me want to cry, man. Like hearing that speech, and I just thought of my grandma. I thought of how even if she might not have understood me fully, or even understood what I did on this stupid little website, or the dumb little games that I enjoyed or obsessed over, but she loved me for me. And not only that, but this whole movie really just felt like a new beginning. Obviously, it's in the name, Brand New Day, but it felt like the movie was telling us that it's okay for things to change. It's okay to start things anew, and especially with, oh my god, dude, the scene with Peter telling MJ how he felt about her after she read the letter that he was initially meant to give her all those years ago. It just felt so reminiscent of not being over somebody that used to be yours. And although it obviously had me at the edge of my seat, and although I really wanted to have that happy ending where MJ just miraculously remembered who Peter was and remembered her feelings for him, I really appreciate that they did not do that, because you can't force someone to love you just because of how you see them. It is so easy to get wrapped up in the idea of somebody who you once knew or who used to be yours, but sometimes people just don't feel that anymore. Sometimes love isn't about how deeply you care. It's about whether you and the other person meet eye to eye, and it's about whether the other person chooses to meet where you are, because people often want different things. No matter how genuine your feelings are, you can't make someone love you from your perspective if their heart isn't choosing you. And honestly, to sum everything all up, I think my ultimate thoughts on this movie are I just believe that this movie was dedicated to the people out there who struggle to move forward after heartbreak and setbacks, failure, and scared of things changing and feeling like life isn't the same anymore. The idea of a brand new day, it can remind someone of the past, and the good part though is it's the past. It already occurred, and it doesn't have to define what happens next in your life. It's about carrying the lessons and the people you met and the love you felt for people, and it's not about the burden that might linger over you after it happened. Even if no one knows your story, like in this case, even if no one knows who Peter Parker is, it's about taking one step at a time and continuing to move forward. It's about knowing how to carry your scars to a future worth living. And on top of that note, I didn't really talk about it, but I am so glad that the ending depicted Ned seemingly, again, it's not really confirmed, but in my heart it's confirmed that he remembered who Peter was in that moment when the muscle memory kicked in of their handshake. Because I like that in this instance it wasn't romantic love that brought back those memories, but the friendship and genuine love between two friends that made Ned remember. And as corny as it is to say this, but my best friend is gonna be moving away, and although I'm more than happy for her, and I don't want my sadness, and I don't think it will, but I don't want my sadness to keep her from, achieving her dreams and becoming something amazing in her life. It's so hard to let go of that feeling of I'm not gonna see this person in a long time, and that distance may or may not ruin things or deter things, but I know that just like Ned and Peter, that it will get past this. And just like that distance that they had, that Ned and Peter had, you will always find your way back to the people who care about you when you remind yourself that even if you might not see them all the time, or maybe they're gone from your life. But if that love, if that friendship, romantic love, whatever it might be, is sincere and honest, you will be okay. And as dappy and corny as it is to end this video on this note, please remember that you are not alone, and there are people out there who love you and cheer for you and wish nothing but the best for you because of who you are, and not because of what your talents might be or what you contribute, but just who you are. And I think that's why ultimately, given all of the lessons and everything that occurred in the movie, it genuinely made me feel seen and understood. Thank you.